Good evening, everyone. It's 6 p.m., so we'll go ahead and get started with the Boys College Recruitment Information Seminar. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Sandy Pollock. I'm the Older Boys Director of Coaching. I've got two very, very knowledgeable people working with me tonight. I'll introduce those to you in a second. Just before I do that, for those of you that do not know me, I've been with this club since its beginning. I was with both clubs that formed TSC, and have been working with older boys teams in this area for about 25 years. So I've seen a lot of players go to colleges at all levels. Very, very proud of what we've achieved as far as getting our players in college programs. And hopefully you'll find this information helpful tonight. I'd like to introduce both Kristen Vlahos and Ronnie Woodard. Kristen is fairly new to our club. She brings fantastic credentials. Kristen is our older girls Director of Coaching. She played at Wake Forest. She also played professionally in the WPSL with players like Carly Lloyd, Hope Solo, Abby Wambach, Megan Rapinoe. So she is highly regarded as a soccer player. And then after an injury curtailed her professional career, got into the coaching ranks, where she coached at Georgetown University. And now we are very, very fortunate to have Kristen as Older Girls Director in our club. In addition to that role, Kristen also oversees our sports recruits program. You all should be familiar with that. Everyone gets free membership, and Kristen is the person that oversees that project for us. So it's fantastic to have Kristen on this presentation with me, and she knows all the ins and outs of the college program and the rules, and I'm sure she'll be able to provide some additional help along the way here. Also with us is Ronnie Woodard. Many of you know Ronnie as our Director of Member Services. What you may not know about Ronnie, in addition to being an ECNL coach in our club, she has a fantastic reputation as a college coach. She was the head coach at Vanderbilt University for many, many years. She is also on the national staff as a scout for women, and she's also on the under 15 national team coaching staff. In addition to that, just recently, Ronnie got certified and is now an instructor for coaches taking licenses. So coaches that go through A, B, and C licenses could find Ronnie as their instructor. So with me tonight are two very, very highly regarded, respected, and knowledgeable coaches to help us with this. So I'm very, very pleased that we can provide some good information to you and should be able to answer any questions that anyone may have. There is a Q&A section at the bottom of your screen. Ronnie is going to keep up with that. So if anyone has questions along the way, please type them in and we'll answer them as best as we can. Having said that, we'll go ahead and get started. As you can see by this map, we have a very proud history of helping our players find a home at some of the best schools in the country. As you will see, the majority are East Coast to Midwest. We have a few that go out west to the West Coast, but the few and far between. Could be obviously where we are, it's such a long way to the West Coast. So you can see by this map where the majority of our players go. Here's an example of just two of our men currently, male players who are currently in college. Brandon Parrish is a junior at Clemson University. Last year, Clemson won the national championship. Brandon was a big part of that process. And below him is Ryan Harris, who actually played for me. Ryan is in his 5th year at the University of Evansville in Indiana. Over 500 players, we can say, have gone on to achieve success at the collegiate level after they left our club. So we're very, very proud of that. It just so happens Marshall Ray, who's the head coach at the University of Evansville, is also very close to our club, and we have sent several players there. And as far as my relationship goes, because I've been doing this such a long time, I do have relationships with an awful lot of college coaches in this country. I'm on the ODP regional staff, and a lot of those guys are head college coaches or assistant college coaches who have become firm friends of mine. They recognize that we are the most successful and the largest club in the state of Tennessee, and lean on people like myself and other coaches in our club to give them information on our soccer players. So you're in good hands. Very proud of what we've achieved, and we're continuing to strive to continue doing just that. So let's talk a little bit about the different divisions. And by the way, Ronnie and or Kristen, feel free to jump in at any time if you've got something to add that we don't highlight here. But it's kind of important that everybody understands how the divisions are separated by philosophy and size. If you're determined to play college and soccer, I am convinced that you have seen so many different players at so many different levels find the home that they're looking for. Now, you might not be able to go to your first choice school. I feel like if you look, you definitely want to play soccer in college, there is a place for you. NCAA Division I schools currently have 205 programs. Those schools have a maximum of 14 athletic scholarships. I want to kind of stop there for a second and talk about athletic scholarships. I want to make sure that people don't feel like there's only 14 players that get the money. The way it works is those scholarships can get divided up any way they like. So they can give partial scholarships to as many players as they feel are necessary. Getting a full ride these days, especially on the men's side, is almost unheard of. So it's that money gets divvied up amongst many players. NCAA Division II schools, currently 206 programs. They have a maximum of 9.9 athletic scholarships. And then Division III has 415 programs, no athletic scholarships, but academic money is a lot of times available at those programs. Other divisions are NAIA, which is 188 programs with a maximum of 12 athletic scholarships. Then you've got junior colleges. Excuse me, Division I junior colleges, there are 217 programs. Each one has a maximum of 18 athletic scholarships. Then there's Division II with 81 programs. Obviously, no athletic scholarships there. Just so that you know, I took a look at junior colleges this morning to kind of prepare for this. Currently, there are no men's programs, junior colleges in Tennessee. There are a few in Georgia, Florida, Mississippi, Arkansas. Otherwise, they're mainly in the Northeast or out west. But we're hoping in the future we will have more opportunity for junior college men's soccer here in Tennessee, because it is a good way to get a 2 years education for free here in Tennessee, and then transfer later on. Okay, this slide here is a little bit busy, so I'm not going to go through it. But this presentation, by the way, you will find on our website. If you want to go look at it, this is being recorded also, where you'll be able to go back and listen to it. But if you want to spend some time looking at this slide here later on, you can find it on our website. But mainly it's to highlight the importance of time management and the differences between, for example, Division I on the left and Division III on the right. And if you look, for example, of 168 hours per week, in Division I, 33 hours are spent in athletics, where in Division I, 33 hours are spent in athletics, whereas in Division III, 28 hours are spent on athletics, which would give that student 5 more hours to do some other stuff, extracurricular stuff, or any other type of activity they might want to do during their college week. Like I say, time management is very, very important, and it's important that you consider all those things when you're applying or looking at different schools, whether it be Division I, II, III, NAIA, so on and so forth. Your schedules, and especially at the Ivy League schools, your academic time is going to be obviously a huge part of your program.
Sandy, let me jump in there for just a second, if you don't mind.
You bet.
One thing to also consider, and we don't need to get into all the details once you get into school, there's something called CARA, though, which is Countable Athletic Related Activities. And so the NCAA actually mandates at the Division I level, while you're in season, you can do up to 20 hours per week in team specific activities, which include practices and film sessions and things like that. But to start thinking for you guys, one thing to pay attention to is what happens in the off season. And that's kind of what we're getting at a little bit with this time management. In the off season, Division III level has 6 fewer weeks of organized practices than Division One. That is an NCAA mandate. And so that allows and frees up time to do other things like internships. If students have aspirations to study abroad, certain majors may require study abroad. So that's just something to keep in mind at the different divisions, that you may have more time to do some of the other things based on some of the NCAA mandates and rules surrounding the time management of their student athletes.
Thank you, Kristen. Okay, here are some terms that everyone needs to get familiar with. For those of you that are maybe juniors or seniors already, you're probably very familiar with this stuff. But for the new, freshmen this year, or even sophomores for that matter of fact, these are some of the terms that you need to get used to and you need to start thinking about. So prospective student athlete is a student who has started classes for the 9th grade, and you'll see that terminology a lot, PSA. A national letter of intent or a letter of a commitment. The national letter of intent is a document used to indicate a student athlete's commitment to participating in NCAA colleges and universities in the USA. Division 3 schools do not sign a national letter of intent, but what they call a celebratory form. So you'll hear the term NLI thrown around a lot. Do not confuse it with NIL, which is a term that's going to come to being in the last 2 or 3 years, which stands for name, image, and likeness, which is now a part of some of the higher level colleges who are getting some sort of payment or reward for their images. The NCAA Eligibility Center. This certifies whether prospective college athletes are eligible to play sports at the Division 1 or 2 institutions. It does this by reviewing the student athlete's academic record, core courses, SAT or ACT scores, and amateur status to ensure conformity with NCAA rules. This is kind of important that everyone does this. I had a player, for example, young man several years ago, very, very good player, at 17 years old, he got the opportunity to sign a professional contract with AEK football club in Athens, Greece. And so off he went, just thinking he was going to start his professional career. He played for a year or two, but got a serious injury that stopped him from playing soccer for a while. But in that time, he decided to come back to the States, go to college, get a degree. And he ended up going to Clemson, was already ready to play again by this time, but because he had signed a professional contract, he did not meet the eligibility requirements and therefore was unable to play college soccer. So just something to think about. Make sure that if you're going to sign a pro contract, you're probably going to give up your opportunity to play college soccer in college. Final qualifier means that you are academically eligible to practice, compete, and receive athletic aid during your first year of full-time college enrollment. So if you've qualified through the Eligibility Center, you can play right away. If you're a non-qualifier for whatever reason, you may not practice or compete or receive athletic aid during your first year of full-time college enrollment. More terms to know. Unofficial visits. We hear this term thrown around a lot. Official visit, unofficial visit. What does it mean? What's the difference? So just so that you know, an unofficial visit is any visit by you or your parents to a college campus paid for by you or your parents. The only expense you may receive from the college is 3 complimentary admissions to a home athletics contest in Division 1 or 5 complimentary admissions to Division 2 contest. Student athletes can take an unlimited number of unofficial visits at their convenience, except during a dead period, and we'll see what those periods are below. Unofficial visits cannot begin until August 1st of your junior year. These are very important dates and times to know about. So again, you'll be able to keep this presentation or look at it and go over this as many times as you like. An official visit is any visit to a campus by you and your parents paid for by the college. The college may pay all or some of the following expenses, including transportation, meals, and 3 complimentary athletic tickets for a home contest. NCAA allows 5 official visits, but a maximum of 1 per college, so you can't go back to the school a second time. And unlimited official visits for D2, D3, and NAIA schools. Dead period. A college coach may not have face-to-face contact with college-bound student athletes or their parents, and may not watch student athletes compete during a dead period. Coaches may write and telephone prospective student athletes or their parents during that dead period. So they can write or telephone, they just cannot come face-to-face or watch.
Sandy, let me jump in one more time here. So one thing, NLI there, that's just the signing period. So this year, it's November 7th through the 10th is actually the signing period for this year. So that goes into a dead period. And you understand what it means there. The one thing to keep in mind with unofficial visits and official visits, and we'll get into this in a little bit more detail later on, Sandy will kind of run you through the recruiting calendar as it relates to the different divisions. The dates are different. Sometimes the number of visits is different as well. For instance, it's actually a June 15th is the first day of unofficial visits, or official visits can begin for Division 2. So there's all sorts of these little intricacies. The big thing to kind of take away is that you pay attention to these details as you start to go on your visits. For instance, if you didn't realize Division 1, you can only have 5 official visits. All of a sudden your dream school comes, number 6, you want to take an official visit. It's on the West Coast. They can no longer pay for that. That expense then becomes on the family. So it's important just to know that this exists and to kind of keep track as you start going through your recruiting process.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, here an example of the recruiting timeline. Freshman year, start strong academically because that's when your core GPA begins. Educate yourself, which is what we're doing tonight, and work on your player development. Sophomore year, start to make a list of 20 to 30 schools of interest. Again, variety is very important, and we'll talk some more about that here shortly. Register for the NCAA Eligibility Center. Start to reach out to coaches at school of interest. Again, per the NCAA bylaw, coaches cannot contact you until June 15th after your sophomore year. Try to attend some showcases, attend ID camps. I know most of our players do this anyway. In your junior year, start to reevaluate and narrow your list of schools, take an unofficial and official visits, meet with coaching staff, attend those matches throughout the fall if you can, schedule your SAT and ACT tests, and then review academic requirements for the schools that you're trying to get into. In your senior year, that's when you start to really narrow things down. Get your list of 5 to 10 schools, take your visits, again, retake any test if necessary, apply to your universities, and FAFSA, obviously your parents will be filling that stuff out in preparation as well. So those are some of the timelines for getting started in your recruiting. How do you start? Okay, this is maybe one of the most important slides we'll talk about right here, is how do you even get started in this process? What are the areas of focus as you begin this college search? And the little question there is, if you get injured, would you be happy attending this school? This is there's another reason, not just an injury. I had a player several years ago, very, very good player that came through our club. He got recruited to Louisville, which was obviously one of the top schools in the country, Division 1. The coach that recruited him, as he went to the school in his freshman year, the coach that recruited him left that college and went to another college. The coach that came in behind did not care for this guy as a player and pretty much told him that from the get-go, told him you wouldn't be playing for this program, you're not good enough. So the kid was stuck at a school that he really didn't want to go to. He only went there because he was recruited there. Long story short, he transferred out and ended up going to a good Division 1 school somewhere else, but it set him back for about a year. So make sure that when you choose a school, if something were to go wrong, that you actually like being at that school anyway. It could be an injury, it could be many, many reasons that keeps you there. But very, very important. So we're going to look at things like academics. What are the academics like at the school that you want to go to, and what's your goals in academics? We have put a lot of players in Ivy League schools. A lot of players that have played for me over the years have ended up going to places like Brown, Yale, Cornell, really good schools like that. And they got in there because not only had they good academics, but they were also good soccer players. There are many kids I know personally who did not play sports but were brilliant academics and did not get in. My next door neighbor years ago in Franklin was the valedictorian at BGA, and he wasn't an athlete. His thing was debates. he was one of the top debate students in America, top 10. His only goal in life was to go to Harvard University. At the same time, I had a player that played on my U18 team that was a goalkeeper. Just so happened the head coach at Harvard was at a Disney showcase I was at, needed a goalkeeper, like this player, ended up getting to go to Harvard because of the combination of academics and the sport. David Armley, my next door neighbor, didn't get into Harvard because there's thousands just like him who are brilliant, but didn't have that sport to go along with it. So if you're trying to get into a difficult academic school, being a soccer player can help get you there. I've seen it over and over again. Also think about your major and intended course of study. Very important. The size of the school. Some players like that big school with maybe a big football program, basketball program, you know, and want to be a part of that. Other players are more comfortable in a smaller private college, you know, so you've got to think about what's going to feel good for me. Also location. Do you want to be close to home? You know, do you want to be, you know, you want to be in the southeast? You know, you want to be up in the northwest or the northeast, should I say, Midwest. All those things are very, very important that you start thinking about it as you're going through this process. Cost of attendance, is it something that you can afford? You know, those are all questions that you have to get asked. Then soccer fit. This is maybe the most important part of it, soccer fit. And I'm going to go to the next slide to give you an idea of what I'm talking about there. So if you're looking at when you go to a school, you got to think, do I want to play immediately? Do I want to play the freshman? Okay. Or am I okay waiting until I'm maybe a junior before I can get some playing time if you're trying to go to a top-notch Division I school, for example? So if you're like a player I had in the past, his name was Jacob Brown. Jacob decided he wanted to play all 4 years. He could have played at a good Division I school, but he decided, no, I don't want to wait. I want to play immediately. So Jacob decided to go to Lee University, which is a very good Division II school in between Chattanooga and Knoxville. He went there, played all 4 years, played, you know, as an impact player from day one, won all academic honors, won all conference honors, won a lot of things. The school were I think, national semi-finalists one year. So he got to participate in a program where he played all the time and he still achieved a lot of success as a player. I've had other players that went to top Division I schools like Clemson, for example, didn't get to play very much, but they were just happy to be part of the team and just wanted to be at a school like that as part of the team, understanding I'm not going to play very much or maybe at all, but I'll get to train and maybe get some minutes. So as a player and parents, you can help your sons through this as well. You got to decide that as well. You know, how much do I want to play? And if you look at this example here, College A, for example, would be that depth player where you only, you know, you're 20% of the time, you know, going to play. Or you're a non-starter, should I say. 20% of those people are non-starters. The College B, again, a non-starter, but maybe a core player, not so much a depth player, just a core player. College C would be a starter, but just a core player. And then College D is that impact player, you know, and that's what Jacob Brown was at Lee University. He was an impact player right away, played all 4 years. So very, very important that you think through this and you don't go to a college and then get all upset and disappointed because you're not getting playing time. If it was a college that was, you know, maybe just a little bit much for you to begin with, if that makes sense. Hopefully it does.
Sandy,
Anybody?
just to take this a step farther too, just so you guys as parents and players understand that this has a direct impact on the timeline and the recruiting process itself. If you are, like you said, you know, just want to go and be a depth player at Clemson, understand that that also probably means very little, if any, scholarship money. That also means your academic standard, you have to have good grades. They don't want to bring in a player as a depth player that is struggling to meet the minimum requirements for GPA, things like that. So understand that the timeline might be different too, that at that school, you may be later in the recruiting process and they may be going after some of their impact players first. And then the timeline might be 6 months, 8 months, 9 months down the road. So just understanding everything Sandy said, and then kind of in the context of where the scholarship money goes and what that timeline might actually look like for in the recruiting process.
Okay, here is an example introduction email to college coaches. It's very, very important how you present yourself to a college coach. Make sure it's personalized. That's the first thing. Don't send something that a college coach gets and it looks like it's a form letter. Make absolutely sure you personalize it. Put things like your graduation year, your jersey number, position, your upcoming schedule, links to any videos that you've got. And now that we've got VO so frequently in the club here, there's no reason why anyone can't have some video to put on their process. GPA is optional. Include the assistant coaches at that college you want to go to. Include your email address and any ID camp information. So you'll get to see this presentation again. You don't have to write anything down with this right now, but those are some of this. This is a good example of what you would send to college coaches of schools that you're interested in. Then you want to have a follow-up email to college coaches. Okay, so again, it wants to be personalized. Okay, this could be to a coach that came to see you play. Okay, so when you start going to some showcases, you know, and you found out that the college you're interested in, that coach was watching your game, this is an example of what you'd write back to them. Ask for feedback. Okay, let them know your club coach's contact information. Let them know upcoming schedule. Okay, let them know that you're still very interested in his program. So this is a good example of what you would do to follow up after your initial email. This is an example of one of our TSC player profiles. Obviously, we've got Clint Dempsey in there as an example, but this would be what it would look like. I'm not going to go through it. You can take a look at this yourself. Obviously, it's got a place for if you're an ODP player, who your references are, your GPA, ECT, SAT, so on and so forth. Okay, this is something I'm going to, if Ronnie's interested in jumping on this, because I know this is near and dear to your heart, Ronnie. You want to talk about social media?
Sure, happy to. So, social media is my biggest soapbox that I have, as Sandy knows every year. That's why he passed it on to me. And I just want to make sure that I warn all of us, and I want us to all be really clear on the impact that negative social media can have on your college recruitment. Some of these quotes might be a little late, but they are genuinely real quotes. And I can tell you that it is very, very important that the way you carry yourself on social media is a direct correlation to whether you're going to be recruitable and if you're a member that they want to add to their team, right? So if you are posting videos that perhaps mom, dad, and your grandmother would not be proud of, or if you are retweeting or reposting images that perhaps are questionable, if there's anything that's questionable and anything that you're liking, reposting, or sharing, I am going to highly recommend that you reconsider making those choices. That's one. Two, I'm also going to make sure that I share with you guys that college coaches have full-time staff that are actively watching you on social media. I sat next to two college coaches on the way home from a major collegiate events recruiting, and both of them were on the Wi-Fi looking at their recruits and their social media accounts to make sure that they were going to be a good fit for their program. So if a coach has a red flag that they're going to have to chase you to class, they're going to have to beg you to behave, or that there's any question that you might not be the character that they're looking for, they will most certainly move on. So it is really important that everyone keeps that in mind. Now, that's not only on social media, that's also how you carry yourself on the field. College coaches are always watching. A good example, when I was working at Vanderbilt, simple things like walking and getting a drink at the concession stand or walking into the restroom. The number of times that I had young players in front of me talking negatively about teammates, about the team they just played, or their coach, and turn around and see me with my crest on my shirt and what college I'm at and immediately turn pale white, right? So be very aware of the words that come out of your mouth. Be very aware of the words that you put on paper, and be very aware that it is important that your character is what that school wants to be reflected on, right? So it's important that you remember that. If you come off the field and you snap at mom or dad and a college coach sees it, if you're snapping at mom and dad who make sure you get to all your games and buy you all your gear and feed you on a consistent basis and make sure that you're well taken care of, if you treat them poorly publicly, how are you going to treat your teammates and your college coach, either to their face or behind their back when you get there? So your character really matters. Are you coachable on the field? How do you take praise? How do you give praise? How do you take constructive criticism? And then most importantly is, how do you take coaching? How are your coaching moments? As a matter of fact, and this is, Kristen probably doesn't even know this, but Dave and I, who was the head coach at Georgetown at the time, he had a player that was begging him to go to Georgetown. This was many, many years ago. And so he left the site that he was at. He drove to an off-site location to watch a player play. He put his chair down, watched. She was in the game, not playing very well, kind of snipped at her teammates. He allowed it to kind of watch a little bit more. Coach subbed her. She came off, walked right past their coach, had an attitude to her, walked straight to her soccer bag and picked up her phone and immediately did something on her phone and then hit it when the coach turned around. Well, I know that Dave and I were on a panel in the past, and he picked up his chair, he loaded it in his car, and that player did not get an invitation to attend Georgetown because of that lack of character that she showed in a very important moment. So you're welcome, mom and dad. You're welcome, grandma. You're welcome, coaches. I said the hard stuff. It is really important that you understand that nothing you put out on social media, nothing that you put on Snapchat, everything can be tracked. Everything can be seen at a split second. And it is very important that you remember that as you're moving forward so that you can be the type of person that a university is going to want to have.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ronnie. That was very, very well said. So maybe one of the most important things in this presentation as well, because I know most of our young players are on social media and they don't realize that the world's watching and listening. So thank you. Okay, the recruiting calendar. Let's talk about that real quick. So you may receive brochures for camps, questionnaires, materials, non-athletics recruiting publications at any time. A coach may begin sending you materials and electronic correspondence June 15th between your sophomore and junior year in high school. Again, phone calls to coach. You or your family may call a coach beginning June 15th between your sophomore and junior year. From the coach, a coach may call you or your family beginning June 15th between your sophomore and junior year in high school. Off-campus contact. A college coach may have contact with you or your family off the college campuses, off of the college's campus beginning August 1 of your junior year in high school. Unofficial visits. You and your family may visit a college at your own expense beginning August 1 of your junior year in high school. And official visits. A college may pay for you to visit the college beginning August 1 of your junior year in high school. You may only make one official visit per college and up to a maximum of 5 official visits to Division I colleges. Just reiterating what we said a little while ago. Division II, I'm not going to go through these. I'm just going to let you look at it for a second. A little bit different. Phone calls, for example, no limit on number of calls by college coach. There is no limit to official visits to Division II colleges. Okay, recruiting calendar for Division III. You may receive printed materials at any time. Again, very similar. Official visits. A college may pay for you to visit the college beginning January 1 of your junior year in high school. There is no limit to official visits to Division III colleges. Again, however, you may only be provided one visit per college. Okay, here are some good questions that you may ask on your visit, because a lot of times you'll go on these and you're not sure what you should ask, what you can ask, and how the whole thing kind of flows. But these are some good ideas that Kristen put together that that you can ask for your, when you go to these visits. For example, what are the majors of the current players? Can you study anything as an athlete? You know, different options: sciences, nursing, foreign language, education. What academic resources are available? Are athletes allowed to study abroad? Can they take internships? What does a typical week look like? What is the off-season schedule like? How does it differ from fall or in-season schedule? Are you expected on campus during the summer for workouts and summer school? How often does the team travel? How does that factor into the academics of the school? And how does the coach see you as a fit for the team? That's an important one to ask, in my opinion. You know, does he see you as a player that's going to play right away? Or, you know, is it probably maybe waiting a year, you know, a little bit in between? Okay. And how does it fit into their recruiting timeline as well? So those are important questions that can be asked when you go on your visits. Frequently asked questions. I'm not going to go through this first one. We've already talked about it. We talked about the second one as far as the eligibility centre. How many scholarships available? We had that on another slide. We also talked about equivalency sport. Should I attend ID camps? Yes, but choose wisely. You'll get a lot of invitations, mass emails from different colleges, and it's not don't take that as a private invite. So be aware of which ones that you go to. I would recommend going to ID camps, to schools that you're interested in going to. And also if there are coaches from different colleges who are working that camp, that way different college coaches get to see you rather than just the coaches at that particular school. Here's an important one here. We just added this today based on a conversation that Ronnie had with a parent this weekend. And that is, how do I overcome the challenges associated with international recruiting? As time has gone by, more and more international students are coming to play soccer in this country, especially in the men's side of the game. In 2018, there were 1,500 plus student athletes out of a total of 4,874, which is about 1/3 at the Division 1 level. So you're competing not only with players from this country, and you're now competing with a lot of international students as well. So be aware of that and be realistic about your options. One of the things that you can do that could help you at least know how many international players there might be is look at current rosters. Look at those rosters of the schools that you're interested in and just see, is it 50%, is it 30%, is it more of international to domestic player ratio. Okay, get your name out there early and be persistent. Okay, it's important to be intentional with your search and open to a variety of schools, knowing the needs of your dream school may not align with yours. So make sure we're realistic and look for, take many options. How do you know if you're a good soccer fit for a school? Ask for honest feedback from your club coaches. Ask the college coaches if they see you as a soccer fit for their program. Again, the earlier you know, the better. Okay. Another way is to take notice of which schools are reaching out to you after permissible contact. One coach or one school's opinion is not an indication alone. So don't get down if the school that you're interested in is not interested in you. It's very possible they've just found other players that play in that position that you play in, or other reasons that cause those things to happen. So don't get disillusioned if you don't get to go to the school of your choice. That's why you want to have many choices available to you. And again, it's one person's opinion. We've all got different opinions. I've had so many players over the years that I thought were really good fits for the school, but the coach didn't feel that way, and vice versa. I thought, well, maybe they might not be, but the college coach thought those players were perfect for their schools. So a lot of opinions in here as well. Should you speak to your club and high school coaches? Absolutely. Please keep your coaches up to date. Talk to your coaches, talk to me, the director, and also your high school coaches. Keep them informed about your college search, because they can be a very, very good resource to you. Also, while I'm at it, I really want to make sure that once players choose a college or get accepted into college, make sure we know about it, because sometimes we don't. Sometimes as a director or even a team coach, I find out after the fact that a player is going to college A, so it's really, we the club are trying to make sure we keep up with that and make sure we give publicity to those players that are going to go off to college, and we want to make sure we let every one of you know how proud we are of you, and obviously wishing you luck in your college future. Sports recruits, everyone should have access to this. It's something that we provide for free as a club to all of our student athletes. It helps with the college search process. You can create a digital player profile. It helps you communicate with college coaches. You can post highlight videos and involve TSC coaches in the recruiting process. Here's an example of how to search for a school. You're looking for a place in the Southeast or the Midwest. You're looking for academics between 3,000 and 10,000, and you're looking for a DCD school. That's what you put into those search bars, and those are some of the ones that came up. So you can use this program to nail down your schools. It's a really good tool. So if you're not using it, I would encourage you to start doing so. Here's an example of a profile that you would send with a video attached, where you could send this off to a college coach. It talks about your height, your GPA, where you play, and a little video that you can send on as well. It also includes your high school you play at. Kristen, is there anything you wanted to add about sports recruits, or?
Yeah, let me just jump in for a second. So one thing with sports recruits, it is incredibly helpful, as Sandy just touched on doing research, on finding out about different schools, because there are so many programs out there, like we kind of talked about in the beginning. You don't have to just go to a Division I school. Your interests may align better with a school at a different level, with an NAIA school. And so this database is fantastic. So we just kind of did a little, the Southeast, Midwest, academics a certain size, Division III as the kind of example we put in for the slide here. But that's just one way to use it. There are so many ways. Once you kind of find a list of schools, you can click on it and find a lot of information about the school itself, some of their academic requirements. You could even find the coach's contact information and email them directly. The one thing I want all athletes to be wary of, though, sports recruits is fantastic in allowing you to directly communicate with college coaches. It has email addresses already in there for you to make your life much easier. But this is where we have a lot of players fall into the trap where they just send a mass email, where you click on 50 schools and you just kind of send the same template out there. That is not looked favorably on by college coaches when they see a template email come in, as Sandy kind of already talked about. So that is the one thing I would say with sports recruits to be careful of. If you are going to use their database to send emails to college coaches, just take the time to personalize it just a little bit. But the one feature that I would say is probably most useful on your profile is video. So if you don't intend to post highlight videos or, video from any of the games you've played or anything like that, you're doing yourself a disservice. You're not using sports recruits as effectively as you can, because for a college coach to very quickly go on and see a clip and say, oh, wow, this player is of interest, I'm going to make sure I get them on my watch list to go to see them play at the next event. So make sure you're using all of the tools as best as you can to really put yourself out there and give yourself the best chance of exposure.
Thank you, Kristen. So that's the program. That's the presentation, everyone. I know we've had a few questions in the Q&A that have been answered. I just want to put up here contact information for us. There's a couple of links there. One is to our website, where you can see this presentation, and the college recruiting resource webpage if you want to see this another time. And then below that is the NCAA guide for college-bound student athlete. A lot of good information on there as well. And then, of course, there's Kristen, myself, Ronnie's, and Greg Warden's contact information. Greg being the ECNL director for boys and girls. It's important that Greg stays in the loop with our parents and players. And he and I sit together in the office, so we talk about this stuff a lot. So hopefully this was useful to everyone. And if anyone has any questions after this, please feel free to email either of us, Kristen, Ronnie, or myself, and we'll be glad to. If we don't know that, if I don't know the answer right away, I'll find out for you. But again, thank you so much for your time tonight, and again, thank you. Take care. Bye bye.